Hello, everyone. Welcome to Made to Dream. I'm your host, Maya Chanel, and here we share stories from women around the world to inspire, empower, and encourage women and young girls to dream without limitations. Today, I have the ultimate pleasure of speaking with Miss Sofia Ana Ortiz, and she is an intuitive business coach and mentor. And we already had one of the best conversations before this podcast, so I'm excited for you guys to hear it. I was like, okay, we got to stop. We got to give to some of the people some of this juicy flavor that we're talking about. So, hey, Sophia, how are you doing today?
Hey Maya, I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me.
That's great. That's great. So, I want to give you the opportunity to allow the audience to know a little bit more about you and what you do.
Sure. So I am an intuitive business coach and purpose mentor. So essentially, what I do is I help women build strategy that turns passion projects into profitable revenue streams. And I know that there's a lot of women right now who are going through deep transitions that are really having an awakening intuitively and are, needing to align with their purpose and turn their passion projects into something that they can support themselves with. So that's where I come in. I help build business strategy and help women get from just a dream and turn that into a revenue stream.
I love it. I love it. So, along your journey, I kind of want to jump right into it. Being able to help women to see that their passions can turn into profitable income. Where do you see the biggest struggle? Because I know as women, we have a lot of self-limiting beliefs, and sometimes we feel like, we're not worth something. So, where do you see the biggest problem? Is it the mindset or just the fact that they maybe not want to do it, or what do you
Yeah.
see the biggest problem?
So this is really interesting. This is something that I come across a whole lot because essentially what my job and what many other coaches' jobs is just to be the hand holding to get you from one side to the other. Because
Mhm.
I'm 100% convinced, at least with my clients, they come to me with 95% of the equation. They've got all the key ingredients. They just need to figure out how to organize them in order to execute and build profitable strategies. And this is something that I go back to every single time I ask myself this question because it's a question I revisit all the time. What is it that's stopping them? And there's this statistic that I came across that I found really interesting that when men apply for jobs, they'll
Mhm.
apply for jobs that they feel only about 60% qualified for, and they'll just send it and go for it. But when women apply for jobs, they won't even touch an application until they feel 100% qualified for that position. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that we could talk about, societally that could come into this, but without getting into the nitty gritty and tearing apart all the societal kind of structures that go into our
I'm
belief
into
system
it.
here,
I'm
there's
into
tons of stuff we could go on
it.
for hours. But it's about addressing that in the threat moments where we're vulnerable of putting our dreams aside, because those are the moments that really cool shit happens. We either take
Mhm.
off or we decide to put it off another
Mhm.
5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. And then 10 years later, we look back and we're like, why didn't we do this? And it's because of those key moments. So that's really where I see my role is identifying women who have those that fire in their belly. They're ready to go, but they just need to figure out how to put the pieces together and feel more ready to take that step. And we as
Mhm.
women feel more ready when we're with other women who are supportive and who are doing the same thing, who have been there, who have done that. And I mean, I know I needed that. I know the women around me needed that. So I'm just here to create that for the people that I work with.
Most definitely. I love that. And, there are so many different factors that play a part in us, our self-limiting beliefs, and just feeling like we're not worth those different things. And a lot of times we're more qualified than the men to be doing these things. So that's the tip right there.
Mhm. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, going through this, it's like, how do we change that? How do we change our beliefs? How do we change something that has been, I guess, taught and, drilled in our minds for generations after generation? What is the steps to changing that for us?
hmm So that's a really good question. And the first thing that comes to mind is approaching this. because as women in general, when you walk into a room full of other women, there's this kind of
Mhm.
process that we go through where we
Right.
first we're timid, we're kind of shy, where we gotta hype ourselves up to be able to walk into a room and be like, okay,
Mhm.
I don't know anyone, I don't know anything. And after moving 18 times, this is something that I've practiced a whole lot and like gone
Mhm.
and gone through that process. But so we go from this kind of timidness to walking into a room and feeling like a perceived threat almost, and a perceived
Mhm.
judgment. And a lot of that judgment comes from within. We experience what we project. And
Mhm.
so when you're feeling judgment and when you're feeling fear and when we're feeling this kind of immediate snap towards competition, I
Mhm.
think that first of all, going from within, being aware of our intuition, being aware of
Mhm.
our emotional state in a way that turns us from a threatened kind of posture to an empowered posture
Mhm.
helps us to empower others as well and feel
Mhm.
comfortable and feel ready to take whatever next steps there are. And I think that there's an awareness right now, especially with the pandemic going on, that we're all
Mhm.
human. We all
Mhm.
go through shit. And when women see other women that are supportive, that are empowered, that are using
Mhm.
powerful language, that are showing each other and opening the door for each other rather than buying into this mentality of scarcity, or that we're not good
Mhm.
enough, or that we're not powerful enough, or that we're not qualified enough, or haven't had 25 years experience to be able to
Mhm.
validate that you want to do something from your heart. Like, that's when powerful things happen. So I think it
Mhm.
it really truly does start from within,
Mhm.
but in order to be able to make that kind of transition, we have to be
Mhm.
surrounded by other empowered women and other
Mhm.
people who are familiar with the journey that we want to go on.
Mhm. Most definitely, just understanding what it is that we want to do, like we spoke about earlier before the podcast. Um, Finding yourself and finding what it is that truly gives you fulfillment is an active journey. It's not something that just comes and just hits you in the face. Like, you may think it's like that, but truly it's an active journey where you're just kind of discovering yourself. And I think a lot of women don't do that because a lot of our lives are kind of planned out for us or set for us, or the different standards that we have to meet, the different roles that we have to play. A lot of things are already kind of set in stone for us, when not in reality it doesn't have to be like that.
Mhm.
So I think just being able to kind of uncondition yourself to the societal norms kind of allows you to explore more, explore within yourself, explore why you're feeling this way, explore what you want to do, and be able to express those feelings and be able to enact upon them. So I think it definitely, yeah, I agree. It starts from within. So let us know a little bit more about how you came across this career path for yourself, how you've been able to start helping women in your space, and how you transitioned to this space.
Yeah. So one thing I want to mention right before we get into this, because our conversation before this was amazing about
Yeah.
that last key ingredient, which is,
Mhm.
as you said, taking action and turning all of that into the final ingredient, which is that action step, and
Mhm.
acknowledging that we have a whole lot more control and power when we're
Mhm.
from an empowered space making decisions and taking action than we
Right.
do when we're following those step by step little ladders or checking the boxes off of the list, like I did when I was getting into my career stuff. So a little bit about where I came from, how I found myself in this position now. So I grew up in a military family. It was
Mhm.
very traditional. I grew up with two parents who I perceived as superheroes. They told me that I could do and be anything that I wanted to be, but I also perceived this safety within this environment. I had mom and dad both in the military, which meant secure living. We had to move all the time, so that was the only thing that was very different from most people's lives, is we moved every 2 years. So I'm on move number 18 or 19 now. I have to kind of think back and count all the stops. But I also grew up with a very specific structure where I felt like, as long as I check off the boxes on my to-do list, on the
Mhm.
next step list, or on that path that was kind of laid out. I was
Uh-huh.
absolutely going to go and graduate from high school. I was definitely going to go to college. I was definitely going to get my master's. I was definitely going to, get a good job and, what was considered externally to be a safe job, and make sure that I had a safety net involved, and so on and so forth. So I became, what I like to say, Queen Chameleon. I could, fall into any position or any place and kind of make it work. But what I didn't learn doing that is that I had a choice. I had a choice in what I wanted to do, and
Mhm.
what my purpose was.
Mhm.
And I thought that maybe one day, as when I hit the next mark, I remember also thinking this at my quinceañera when I turned 15, that a bolt of lightning was going to come down and strike me and show me my purpose. It was going to be
Oh my
like, you know what, like, this is what you're meant to do. You finally made it. You're an official woman now. Like, go,
goodness.
go forth and conquer. But that didn't happen. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe in high school, then I'll know. As long as I graduate, I get that, like, that graduation certificate, then I'll know what I meant to do. And graduation comes around and I'm like, okay, still hasn't happened. So I'm like, okay, well, that means I have to go, do the next step, go graduate
Mhm.
from college. So I did that, nothing. And then I got a master's degree thinking that that was the end. No, nothing, and so on and so forth. And this is
Mhm.
something that I think plays out for many of us who are especially driven, who feel like we do have something deeper to do, but we don't know what that is, and we don't know how to connect with it, and we don't know what it is really, because we don't
Mhm.
learn to ask ourselves tough questions.
Mhm.
So summarizing everything else that happened, I found myself in this corporate position, working overseas. And I thought, by the description of the job, it was my dream job. It was like
Mhm.
everything. It was the made it, position. And I'm sitting there feeling miserable. I'm like,
Mhm.
why do I feel miserable? And it was because I never learned to ask what it is I'm meant to do. What do I want to do? What are my gifts, and how can they translate to help other people's lives, make other people's lives better? Selling, X amount of wine cases was not going to do it for me. And especially in the environment that was not full of empowered women. It was not full of examples of people that I wanted to be like.
Mhm.
And I came to this realization as the global pandemic was rolling around.
Right.
So I'm rolling into the next ideal job, quote unquote,
Mhm.
and COVID swooped in and canceled everything, sent me
Mhm.
back to the States. I evacuated in March. And I found myself filing for unemployment, and was
Mhm.
like, what am I going to do in this moment of scarcity? Like, there's no way that I'm going to make this work. Like, what's going to happen in my career, so on and so forth. All these fears that I'm not the only one who was experienced
Mhm.
during this pandemic. I know there's so many people who have gone through this. And I found myself uh, or not qualified to receive
Mhm.
any unemployment because I didn't make enough in my current or my previous job. So that
Mhm.
was another blow. And I'm like, holy crap, like, what do I do?
Mhm.
And then I got this moment of clarity that was just like, girl, this is the moment that you've been waiting for. This
Mhm.
is this is the reason, the ultimate reason to finally start your dream job that I had, like, written down on bar napkins. Like, when I was, whenever I had an idea, I had
Mhm.
journals full of, like, if one day, in 10 years, when I feel qualified enough, I can make it
Mhm.
happen, I'll start my dream business. And
Mhm.
so anyway, fast forward, I now am 4 months into my brand new business,
Mhm.
and have, the money, I think, is a side effect, but have
Mhm.
made more than I've ever made in 4 months in my entire life. Previously,
Mhm.
I'm working with women who are amazing women, who are also going through transition, who are starting businesses, executing with killer strategy, and turning their passion projects within 6 weeks into fully functioning businesses.
Mhm.
And just, like, there's not anything more to be said than listen to your intuition. Like,
Mhm.
listen to your intuition and take action. Like,
Mhm.
there's no better time, there's no perfect time either. um
Mhm.
and it took, a jarring wake up call. Thank the universe for that, because I don't know what I would be doing. I do know what I would be doing. I would still be
Mhm.
stuck in a miserable job. Same years,
No,
probably.
definitely. Like, I think this time has been a wake up call for all of us to just realize what it is that we actually want to do. Try things. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people have not been afraid to actually try things, and that's where we get kind of hooked up on where we want to be in life. We're afraid to try and explore and do different things. We're afraid of risk, and this is a time of risk. Honestly, what else is there to do? But I do want to go back to the point that you made about sometimes a lot of people think that maybe some person's flaw or something that they wouldn't consider themselves doing, like for instance you moving all of these years, moving every 2 years, some people may consider that instability, or I don't know if I can do that because I have to make friends all over, and how am I going to live, and da, 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 all of those different things that they project. But in turn it's become one of your biggest assets and one of your biggest strong suits, just because you're able to adapt and be able to see all these different cultures. You're able to kind of connect with so many different people on different levels where others aren't able to do that because they're so used to being in that one space. So I think that's an important part to touch on as well.
Absolutely. I love that you brought that up because it's something too, as a child, I struggled with a lot. I
Hmm.
always felt that it was the biggest weakness and that was the worst part about me and about my life and this and that. And it really is about turning those things, the things that we beat ourselves up about the most, into our
Right.
superpowers. And
Hmm.
each and every one of us have that in some way, shape, or form. That one thing that we always go back to that we're so hard on ourselves for. And
Yes.
when you realize that it's a gift and that it's unique to you and that
Hmm.
it could be your secret sauce, like you've got a full formula that you can execute from then on, that is now comfortable. It's not
Hmm.
something because it's intrinsic to you. If you're
Hmm.
constantly fighting it, it's like trying to put someone else's pants on and expecting them to fit. But then when you
Hmm.
find that one pair of jeans that just like fits and hugs your body the right way, and you're like, oh my God,
Hmm.
this is the pair of jeans that I
Hmm.
need for forever. Like you finally feel comfortable in your own skin and you're like, you know what? I am beautiful. I am amazing. I am, capable and strong and intelligent. And I have this ability to share with other women. I
Hmm.
think women who realize that they're beautiful and capable and strong and can share with other women, it
Hmm.
removes all of that, threat posturing. And
Hmm.
it kind of shoots us into this empowerment zone where it's like,
Hmm.
there is no risk of sharing your light. There is no risk of, inspiring someone. You don't lose anything by it. And in fact, you're even more unique by owning your superpowers rather than resisting them to the point where
I
you're
agree.
yourself.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think it's important because, human beings, it's our human nature to be competitive. But I feel like, women have an even more competitive like sense to them. I don't know. Because sometimes we feel like, we're not supposed to share things with others, and it doesn't help us as a community. It doesn't help us at all to grow, to expand, or to be able to receive the rights that we deserve. I don't know
Yeah.
why I couldn't get that word out.
No, definitely. Like you're so right. And I talk a lot with my clients about the difference between instinct and intuition.
Hmm.
Instinct wants us to survive, and
Hmm.
intuition wants us to thrive. And it's
Hmm.
this difference between literally a physiological like reaction
Hmm.
for survival and intuition, which is a guidance from within or from whatever belief system that you use. It appears in so many different ways, but a
Hmm.
deeper sense of purpose and being. And so however that appears, the difficulty is that instinct presents itself the same way as
Hmm.
intuition does when we're in this fear space. And so no
Hmm.
matter what, say that we're facing a bear, you're
Hmm.
getting the full adrenaline rush, you've got,
Hmm.
this reaction in your body, And you have the same reaction when you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Let's say that you have a fear of public speaking or something along those lines. You get the
Mhm.
same physiological reaction. And so it's difficult to distinguish what really is a threat and what's perceived as a threat. And
Mhm.
I think that you're right, women have this really visceral um, tendency and reflex for survival, because
Mhm.
that's what our purpose is biologically, is to survive and protect and nurture. And
Mhm.
we do that. Mama bear is called mama bear for a reason, right?
Mhm.
And so when we realize that opportunities for growth and opportunities for collaboration with other women and opportunities for
Mhm.
supporting other people and those kinds of things don't belong in the instinct zone. They
Mhm.
belong in the intuitive and the growth
Right.
zone. That's
Mhm.
kind of the shift where empowerment starts to happen. And it's something we practice. It's not comfortable always. It's not,
No, not
immediate.
all the time. It's a space that you have to grow into, something that you have to become comfortable within yourself. And it's like practicing something. It's like, you got to get that muscle movement going on to just be like, okay, I'm comfortable in this space. I know how to do this. I know who I am. I know who I want, all of those things. So if you had to say one thing to women and young girls around the world to inspire them to dream without limitations, what would it be?
I would say listen to intuition. Practice listening to intuition. When you've got
Mhm.
that little voice in the back of your head that's saying, "Girl, you can do this," or you're inspired by something, or you feel that energy or that little kind of spark inside, listen
Right.
to it. Take note of it, pay attention to it, and welcome it, because we
Mhm.
scare ourselves sometimes when we get in touch with intuition. But listen to it, and then translate it and see how you can take action, because
Okay.
it's that last
Perfect.
ingredient. I love that we talked about that, because it really is. We listen to these signs all the time, but then we put them away in the
Right,
little
we don't trust our gut. It's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. We know it. We know it all just from the gut.
Yes.
We know what's right. We know what's wrong. So I do want to give you the opportunity before we close out to allow the audience to know if they want to reach you for services or just want to follow your journey. How can they do that?
Absolutely. So the best way to reach me is through Instagram, where you can find me at Sofia, Sofia __ ALMA, Sofia Alma. And my company is called Alma Empowerment. We're at the beginning of our journey, so we don't have our website quite up yet, but you can contact me directly through Instagram or through my Facebook, that you can find me at Sofia. And I think it's Alma Empowerment. After Sophia, I prefer the Facebook, but Instagram's probably the best.
I love it, love it. Well, we thank you so much for sharing your inspiration with us today. I'm sure it has helped so many people, inspired so many women to grow, and you just continue doing your work and shining your light on women around the world. We did enjoy having you here today. We enjoyed having all of our guests tune in. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Once again, this is Made to Dream. I'm your host, Maya Chanel, and we'll see you next time.